Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss the row that's blown up over NATO as President Tiny Hands once again blights the UK with his presence, as if we didn't have enough homegrown dangerous lunatics to contend with. But first, if you'd like to see more of my videos, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, if I were to say that Trump and Macron were having a bit of a ding-dong about the relevance of NATO, you might be forgiven for thinking that Trump was attacking NATO again, as he has done so often as president and presidential candidate. But in this particular case, it's actually the result of a comment that Macron made a few weeks ago that the organisation was brain dead, which is certainly an inflammatory remark to make with a NATO meeting on the horizon, a bit like saying anything intelligent at a Trump rally. It's bound to result in confrontation. But although I think Macron has a point, which I'll come to in a moment, I did find it odd that of all the people to challenge it, and granted Chancellor Merkel of Germany did say that she disagreed, but of all the people to really wade in on this, Trump, he said that NATO serves a great purpose and that Macron's comments were insulting. Now, you can defend the part about the comments being insulting. You could certainly take that view. Fine. But, and I think NATO is largely pointless at the moment, or not what it should be, or indeed not what it could be. But I would still have to say, yeah, that is an insulting thing to say. But if Trump thinks that NATO serves a great purpose, well, I'd be fairly keen to know what he thinks the purpose is. As far as I can tell, did anyone even ask him that, or did he just ignore the question? Because that seems an obvious one to ask him. Now, Trump in the past has described NATO as obsolete, a relic of the Cold War. And actually, I have a hard time disputing that. After all, if it's supposed to be a bulwark protecting Western values, at the time it was against Soviet aggression, well, what good is it now? It's not helping in Ukraine, or between Turkey and which is a member state, and Syria. There are conflicts that you would think are absolutely in the sphere of influence of NATO, and certainly in the bulk of NATO's members' interest to deal with, that it has singularly failed to impact at all. President Trump even threatened to pull out of NATO altogether. You know, he's brought up time and time again the issue of NATO at his rallies and how it is bad for America. So why is he now defending it? Was he just spoiling for a fight and decided that as France isn't stupid enough to do anything for him, there were no problems in picking a fight with President Macron? But I mean, let's look at Macron's objection. So what President Macron has said is that NATO members are no longer cooperating on key issues. Last month, he complained that the US did not consult other NATO members about pulling out of Syria and throwing the Kurds under the bus. Now, ignoring the moral dimension to this represented an act that wasn't just a betrayal for America's allies. It could seriously unbalance a region that could easily see major European powers having to get much more involved in. Now, his main concern, Macron's concern, seemed to be that he felt that the United States, by far and away, of course, the most powerful member states militarily in NATO, is not really committed to the organisation. I wonder where he got that idea from. Oh yeah, everything Trump said about it. Now, in such case, he feels that it is unclear if NATO would actually even aid in the attack on a member state, which is basically its purpose. That is pretty close to the top of the charter there. Now, to my mind, there's taking Macron at his face value, and then there's considering if there's something to read between the lines. So, President Trump has indeed talked NATO down a lot. NATO opposes Putin's designs on Europe, and if Trump frequently defends Russia's actions, at the same time he has frequently attacked those of European powers. So that Trump decided to defend NATO, albeit rather weakly, today could just because it suited Trump to get in a slanging match about something, anything at all, quite frankly, welcome distraction from his impeachment perhaps. By the way, to American viewers, should you really be letting him out of the country when he's facing such serious charges, or were you just wanting to get rid of the man for a few days? But anyway, there is also another dimension to Macron's words that I consider, and he talked about Europe needing to keep control of its destiny. Now, although senior US military leaders seem committed to NATO, and you would think any president, future or present, that would heed their advice would be equally committed, I mean, that same commitment is clearly not true of the current commander-in-chief. No matter what he said today, you know, or yesterday rather, perhaps a future president won't either. And that means that if something happens that really does need NATO to spring into action, like need it, not just could use with it, need it, there's a risk in effectiveness if either the US don't come to the fore because they don't really see it as in their interest, or even if other states don't trust America not to pull out on a whim, because this may be building up to further arguments for the European-based alternative, the so-called EU army that Brexiteers seem so afraid of, even though it's what we have right now, i.e. NATO, but without certain members. And that wouldn't just include the US, it would include Canada as well, with whom nobody has a problem, but also Turkey, who are not exactly on the same page when it comes to what's important for European security. Now, if NATO's aims are no longer understood in the same way by all major players, if not everyone really agrees on what NATO is for, and in a post-Soviet world that's understandable, then there is certainly an argument for reassessment. And after the US pulled forces out of Syria so suddenly and without consultation, it's hard to argue that the most powerful member of NATO is a dependable leader of the organisation. And I would certainly not regard NATO as obsolete, as Trump has done in the past, but the security concerns are different for its most powerful members, and it would seem sensible to me to question if it's still the best way of organising forces to meet those concerns. But like I say, the argument, as it happened today, is probably a question as to the continued suitability of NATO on Macron's part, and a distraction from personal trouble on Trump's part, especially as he also took pot shots at his own stock market with comments about China whilst he was at it. But those are my thoughts anyway. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, and if you'd like to support the channel further, then also please click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.